Welcome to another episode of the Ripple Intent podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, John Grant, and with me, as always, is Kyle Mishkowski. Say hi, Kyle.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
So, love to have you all back. As a reminder, Ripple Intent is a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization where we are bringing a more human-centered focus to the way we work, looking to improve how we work together. We're excited for this episode to have a guest with us. I met this gentleman, my goodness, it's been a few years, but I've really gotten to know him better over the past year. I'm totally inspired by how he has grown and shown us how to actually exist in the workplace in a way that takes care of the people around us. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So our guest today is Tony Seidling. Tony, introduce yourself for our listeners.
Well, good morning. It's certainly a pleasure to be part of what you're doing here today and be on your podcast. And my name is Tony Seidling, and I support the construction industry at FCI Constructors. And more importantly, I support all of our professionals that I work with every day.
Oh, thanks, Tony. Like I said, your story inspires me. One of the things I love about, as I've gotten to know you better, one of the things that really touches me, like I mentioned, is how you show up. I mean, everything you do it just screams how you care about other people. And so what I really use, honestly, I use you as an example with the people I work with. I try and emulate what I hear from you because it's showing people how much that you value them and making sure that they feel heard. And I feel like it's something that we miss in the workplace in general, unless we're really thoughtful about doing it. But it just seems to come naturally from you. So we'd love to hear your story. You know, you had in our prep, you had a really great way to describe it about, going from the me to the we. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let us help us understand your journey.
I just gotta make sure I understand this, because the way you described it as like this awesome touchy-feely hugging. We're all in this. This is fantastic. But you work for a construction company.
That's right.
That's like irony defined right there. I'm sorry, but that is just not the typical perception that anybody out there has of a constructor, let alone of any construction company. So you're going to have to give us some context there on that one.
Well, and I'm going to amp it up before we let you go there, Tony, because part of what I want to hear out of this is you're a former rodeo cowboy.
Yeah, that's
you are not just a skydiver, but a skydiving instructor, and you captain ships. I'm like, oh my gosh, Tony, where does all this come from? And and for again, this is all our listeners. You are a big belt buckle, boot wearing guy at the same time.
Yeah, after that intro, I had to look down and make sure I still had boots on. Kyle's right. That was a pretty soft opening. I appreciate that.
But it's not, it's totally not the norm, right? There's people going around the country talking to high school kids, trying to convince them that our industry is not, it's not conveyed by the ass crack plumber bending over the kitchen sink. It's not this rough and tumble. It's not there was, my wife showed me the video. There's a video that's kind of sped up, and it's taken by somebody in a building across the street. They're recording the crew warming up in the morning. They're doing their stretches, they're doing their knee raises, they're doing their back bends and their twists and all that stuff. And for me and for most of us, that's become normal for a long, long time. We know that you limber up a crew before you actually go to physical work. But they thought it was cute and it was funny, and it was smiling. But still, that whole experience of the world sees this perceived rough and tumble construction crew suddenly doing these limbering stretches as a cute Facebook, Instagram kind of video opportunity. And so we
Yeah.
still got a long ways to go on that perception side. So I'm excited for the conversation because, man, that has just been one that has driven me nuts for years.
I'm glad you opened that piece of it up, and I look at it from like, what do we have in common, from this industry to software development or selling insurance, is that we all have families and people that are important to us. And it doesn't matter what shoes you're wearing every day when you show up, we still have those common connections that are they're unique and consistent. From it doesn't matter where we work, we're just people, and we're trying to make a living and build things. And that connection, I've never seen it differently, no matter what industry I've had the opportunity to go into. Is that it's most of the things that make people fire on all cylinders are consistent, and that just is sitting down and listening to what they need. And I think if you look at any part of what's natural from just what comes to you to what you have to work on, is that being all ears all the time can come with its challenges, because you have to be able to guide a conversation towards a productive outcome and not allow it to turn into being an ear to bitch in every day. And you follow where I'm at with that, is that it's kind of channeling what you're hearing to what do you need and how can I help you get there. Or maybe I just need to sit here and let you chirp in my ear for a little bit, and that helps you. But so it's been able to be definitive and that really is truly listening and understanding. Do I have a real need that needs to be addressed here, or does this person just need to be heard for a few minutes? I listened to one of our project managers just a couple days ago. We were on the road from Tucson, and he was mentoring one of the professionals on the Front Range. And one of the comments that she had for him was that I didn't feel like I had much input towards the meeting or brought value because I didn't say very much at all. And he asked her, he goes, what did you do? He goes, I took very detailed notes, and I created a follow-up list of action items for all the people there based on what I heard and what we could do together for the next meeting. And he just kind of listening in on the conversation. He's like, that's exactly what brings value to a meeting, is trying to listen and understand what we need from each other. It just took me back on that when we show up and we think if we don't voice what's on our mind, that we're not bringing value to a conversation. And, when we've been there with that, is that our ears are the most important part of bringing value to the conversation.
There's no way you started life that way unless you had some sort of awesome, influential experience as a young kid. How did you get to that point?
Man,
because that's some wisdom right there. Sorry to accuse you of that, but there's some wisdom there.
You guys have asked me this question a couple of times, and I had to think back on that for just like, I don't know. But I remember it was just defining, because really growing up, I was kind of a brat. I was full of energy and didn't listen very well to authority, and just kind of was on my own path. And I remember, maybe it was a senior year in high school, and I was making a comment to a friend at the time that I didn't want to be doing something because everybody else would see me. And he said, look up at this room. Everybody in here is so focused on themselves, they're not going to notice what you're doing at all. And that it always stuck with me, is that that comes back to that me-centered thinking, is that we're so worried about ourselves that we're not looking at everybody else in the room to see what they're focused on. And so that kind of, those little sparks that happen over time. And as I entered the industry, and of course you were talking about rodeo, that's kind of because you have that 8-second challenge that's just you and that professional animal athlete. Yeah, that's me centered, but the all of the mental preparation and when you're hurt, or the guy that shows up to help get out of the arena, get you out of the arena when things didn't go well, that's team centered. That's the guy that you're competing against for the check at the end of that round, that's over the helping pull your bull rope and cheering you on when you leave, even though you're in competition against each other for the payday. Everybody's supporting each other, and so you take that piece away. And I learned as much as from skydiving as anything. When you look from setting a world record event where you have your one job with 200 other people, and you have to hit a target about the size of your kitchen table without interfering with the success of anybody else around you, and the communication and trust that has to happen with that at high rates of speed. And we look at that as we move into our just industry, and we have our individual tasks, but if we're not looking out for each other and helping that person advance to that next spot, what do we really get? We don't get a collective team effort or record. We just have a few individuals that are doing really good, and a lot more that wish they could get involved, get connected with that attempt. And so it's a lot to think about. You guys ask inspiring questions.
So was this just a gradual change over time for you? I mean, like how did you hit that switch that goes from me to we?
I think it was in just the transition, making my way through the construction industry. I was really young when I became a superintendent, and it was kind of that springboard of the old school craft workers that are around me and superintendents, that barrier to entry that they created for this kid that was trying to work really hard and just simply didn't understand all the parts. I kind of sucked at it, actually. It was just trying to learn. And there was just this, it felt like a wall that got put up because I was that kid that was going to take their job. And it was one of those little parts that's like, I'm never going to do this to somebody else when they're trying to learn. And because we can try if you got someone that wants to. And that's when I started to discover it, when as I learned something that would be beneficial to someone else, I would give that to them if they asked or needed it. And that's when I started to recognize when people start gravitating to that and they start coming to you more and more. And then it's something you can't turn loose of after a while. It's because you're just making everyone around you successful. And I by no means know a stitch of what I'm going to learn. But if there's something I can give to them right now and it can help them, I'm going to show up first thing in the morning and do that with them.
It seems to me like some of that was born and bred in the way that you were approaching the skydiving and the rodeo piece. Because when you described that, what I was hearing was it's a group effort. Both of those experiences, you have your part to play, and you've got to do it well. And you talked about that for each one, and then that alone wouldn't drive success. It has to be everybody else also doing their part, and like you said, trusting them. And so in this, I don't know, there's so much out there about, be yourself, and, don't be afraid to shine and speak up and highlight your own things. And all these quips about how we're supposed to be focused on us and don't be afraid to tell everybody how great you are. What I'm hearing, though, is that's not at all what you have found to be the path for others to succeed, which is, I'm hearing that you're by doing your part, you're helping other people be successful.
Yeah. And think how we glamorize you. This is that was a great comment you just had right there. When we think about, we need to be putting more video clips on Facebook of us falling down like I did coming in the parking lot this morning than it is standing on the balcony of the fifth level resort showing how great our life is. So I'd rather have that clip out there, just letting people know that I fail a lot. And it's your attitude about that, and searching out the people that can help you is what's really going to make you successful. And so we have just a skewed view of the world because we show all these great things that we're doing, but show me some of the bad shit. I want to put mine out there because that's the reality of it, right? We were talking about the podcast you were referencing earlier. It was like they had 20 minutes of screw ups before they got it right, and so that's the way our life really is. It's like I couldn't get the toaster to work this morning, and all these little fumbles I had. But what did I really need to do? I just needed to get out the door. These other parts that I was backfeeding it with is like, I gotta make a perfect piece of toast and get my little breakfast shake. And where's my shoe? Oh crap! I can't find the garage door opener. I just needed to get out the door, and we getting fouled up and all these other little parts wasn't the goal. I needed to be here at 7:00. And so it's just interesting. I like the outtakes better than we all like to see success, of course, but I think it's the journey of us succeeding and failing just to get where we're going, and having your arm around someone the whole way saying, I got you. We can do this together.
Did you have people like that along the way?
I've had some pretty cool mentors, and you know, you have to look back sometimes as you mature and start giving yourself to others to recognize what was given to you. And some people that, in the most part, just slow down a little bit and watch and observe and listen to what's going on around you so you can engage yourself and your energy for the benefit of the group.
How do you do that? How do you not get caught up in I'm busy, I've got things to do, or someone else is busy and they got things to do? I mean, we've all got task lists, we all got responsibilities, we all got to get stuff done. How do you just do it like because it's the way you're wired? Do you just like, that stuff doesn't bother me? Or is it with intention that you recognize that stuff comes up and you're like, that's not important right now, what's important is that we slow down? I mean, I'm just curious, is that trained? Is it learned? Is it life experience? How do you do that?
You just brought up a great skydiving reference. How do you slow down when you're going 120 miles an hour to land in the right spot?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Having never skydived, I have no idea what the answer may be, so I'm very curious.
That's our next video together. Watching your exit from the plane. You know, there's a lot of unnatural parts that come along with it when you're picking up needs and expectations, and you know someone's struggling, but there's a lot of 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, how can I be of the most benefit? And when you engage with, not topic specific, but you can feel an energy when you're in front of someone, and you can tell that that's either going in a good direction or a bad direction. And if there's going to be benefit on the other end, because we can sure get hung up and supporting to me doesn't mean like, Billy put gum in my hair. I was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And so we just jump on that energy wagon with someone, and it's like, being on your team doesn't necessarily mean I'm helping you. It's like, what led up to that? How did you get that in your hair? And what occurred before it? Because that didn't just happen. So what got us to where we are right now And how would we like it to be tomorrow? Those are the kind of things when you're, and I just use the gum in the hair as an example, but it's tiny little parts that we start when I watch relationships decay. It's like it started with a comment at the coffee bar or a quip about something that may or may not have been meant in the way it was received. It was not sent in the way it was received. And then it starts snowballing to the next one. And then it gets volleyed back to someone else. And then pretty soon we've got, think of a conflict with your spouse or significant other that escalates to a place where you might go a day or you get up the next morning and then you're still fighting about something and you're like, do you remember how this started? I think it was because I neglected to get the oatmeal off of my spoon when I put it in the sink. And all this bad energy starts evolving, and maybe there was something else that just needed to get out. And we were addressing the symptom of the oatmeal on the spoon that started us communicating in a way to try to be heard. But it just turned into all this shit. We're like, what started this? But those were other things that were built up that was the one catalyst. I had the courage to let that out to you. And I was like, why is that even a big deal? You don't listen to me. So there was then, it wasn't the oatmeal on the spoon. It's like, you feel like you're not being heard. I had the courage to tell you that you were too lazy to wash that off. I asked you why that even mattered, and then you actually told me it's because I don't listen to you. But we don't. We want to be right. So we let that roll out into something else, and then we're a day into a conflict when I heard what I needed to hear 5 seconds into it. It's like, you need to be heard. I guess that's the discipline in it.
And I heard that, one of the things you said is really sitting with me, how would you like to be tomorrow?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What does that mean to you guys when you hear something like that? Was how do you want to be tomorrow?
No, we're the ones who ask questions here.
Okay. Join me at 10 tomorrow. Have John and Kyle.
What is that?
Yeah. That's an awesome question. I mean, you hear a lot about what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to be and all those things. That's a heck of a challenge. How do you grow every day? We all got not the same, but we all got limited time here. So how do we maximize the time the best we can? And that's not jamming everything you possibly can to every minute of every day. There's certainly what works for you. And I think, your question for me, Tony, is I do try each day before going to bed, and it actually helps me sleep, is to try to reflect on the day and what went well and what didn't go so well. And just kind of play back the day. And it's a thought exercise. It takes just a few minutes. I don't journal. I used to. I don't do that anymore. But for me, it works mentally to think through, okay, so what happened? What went well? What didn't go well? And what do I need to continue reflecting on? Either from today or the last couple of days. That's a little more deeper than just a few minute reflection. And that helps me align myself, not just to get to sleep, because it somewhat clears my head, but it also helps me align myself to do more of this and be wary of that. And most of those are when I get upset, when the emotions take over, whether it's with my kids or people at work. That's where I need to be more conscious when those opportunities arise. So tomorrow, bring it back to your question, if that opportunity comes up, I need to be aware that my reaction is going to be my reaction, and it needs to stay inside. I got to be conscious about how it comes out.
Mm-hmm. I like that. You just inspired me for another conversation that we can have when we think about writing your script, because we're always referencing everybody else's. So what do you put in your script that you truly own and live up to every day? So, because we're taking reference off of so many different things that we see, and we're so I think we're sometimes enamored with all the everything we see online and how we should be, rather than how we feel and how we need to be at peace and help everybody else be successful.
And there's a difference there. I'd like the, I hate to keep harping on it, but the whole authentic, just be yourself. That's not what you're saying. Let's be clear. There's a difference between putting work, energy, and effort into studying others as well as studying yourself and improving yourself, as
Yeah,
opposed to just, hey, this is me and I'm going to show up. There's a huge difference there between what you're saying and what some of the, I would say, easy button, or the way it's professed, whether it's in the media or in a written or social or wherever it may be. There is a gap there. And what I'm hearing you say is you have to put the energy and the focus into yourself. And part of that will be the study of others as well as studying with others in order to become a better person.
yeah, that's exactly. You think of the you can show up and just be yourself, but then there's influences that are around you that we need to be aware of, right? And we certainly wouldn't want to distract from being genuine, being authentic, being just being you. That's always good, but you're going to walk differently through a cage full of mountain lions than you are going to walk through a cage full of bunnies. And so you need to be sensitive to what's around you so you don't get your ass eaten.
Not if you're a Monty Python fan. Sometimes the bunnies are more dangerous.
And now we've identified John's fear of bunnies.
Still, even Tony, going back to you, they've got huge teeth.
I would like
Going
to see
back to
this.
your comment, I love that question of how do you want to be tomorrow? It's a great diffuser because it just makes you pause and think, well, right, how much of an asshole am I being today? Like, I don't know how I'm showing up. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you make assumptions. If I assume, right, my authentic self, which may be a jerk sometimes, right, I am showing up as me, but I'm not necessarily being mindful about how I'm impacting the people around me.
Yeah.
So I love that. Who do I want to be tomorrow? How do I want to be tomorrow? It just makes me pause and think. Because unlike Kyle, I'm not great about reflecting on the good things out of my day. That was actually a big thing when I was a kid. At dinner time, my mom would always ask, right, share something good from your day, share something positive. And I've kind of, over the course of time, I try to remember that. But I'm like most people, I'm probably my own worst critic. And it's so much easier to think about the things that went wrong. But if I stop and I go, how do I want to be tomorrow? It really makes me go back to that positive space. Like, what can I do better?
And then you have to ask that today. And that puts you, how you want to be tomorrow is going to reflect you have to check in right now when you ask that question, because how do I feel right now? And you look at that. And so when someone asks you, how was your day, right? You'd reference that and say, I had a great day. Or I had a shitty day. So what typically makes that great day or a crappy day for you? I guarantee most likely there was people involved with you, or maybe you just needed time to go hike in the wilderness alone. But for me, when I know I've had a bad day, there was someone else involved with it. And my reaction to that is probably what left it unsettled. And I carry that home with me, because if there wasn't resolve, or there's conflict present that didn't get addressed in the right way, and it's most likely because I was being a jerk or wasn't listening or didn't think I had time for what was important to somebody else, it doesn't go away. I just get who I want to be tomorrow now would be what I wasn't today, of being present for somebody who had something that needed resolved. I can't think of many other ways of, and good or bad, when we reflect on the end of our day, there's people involved with it 99% of the time that made it that way. So be the driver to determine the outcome of how you answer that question of not only how you're going to be tomorrow, but what happened with that today. That's leadership. That's being present for people. You can drive that. And they just, people want to be heard. They want to work it out. Not, you think that person's a jerk all the time. Not really. They were conditioned into that because I guarantee it started with them not being heard or felt or understood. And they recognized that because of that conditioning, that's the response that they need to put forward every day, because that's how they're then heard or recognized as a jerk, because that's all they got. We made them that way.
And they've survived and have been, successful, however you want to phrase that. They've made it through, and occasionally get accolades. And so, yeah, we've made them that way from both sides, the good and the bad.
If you
That's
wanted
an
to put
awesome
that to
thing
the
to think
test,
about.
yeah, if you and you're gonna find that individual, right, that is unapproachable, and you think that they're not nice or they don't give a crap about other people, and dry fire this one. Go spend a little time with them and watch the difference that you get when you listen. Don't go in there talking about you or what you do or how you feel about them. Just listen. And we always want, and we're so drive-through window Amazon delivery truck oriented that we can push a button and here it is, got it on my plate right now. But relationships take time. And if you're present over time, you're going to get to know people and they're going to start giving themselves to you.
So we need to wrap up. One of the things I am hearing from you, though, is I hear that you define success for yourself based on the success of the people around you.
Yeah. I don't have anything without the people around me. I'll just be in an empty gymnasium going, hello, hello, hello. It takes that part. It's not swimming the English Channel, which also requires support. We need each other.
That's true. That's true. I mean, that may be the wrap right there, Tony. Man, we could have this conversation all day long. I love talking with you. We do like to close with a takeaway from today's conversation for our listeners. So, Tony, I'm going to throw it to you first. What's one takeaway you'd like to share with everyone?
And it happens every time I'm with the two of you, is that if we can just sit down and have this started out as us being lighthearted and just having an exchange of information and ideas, and it evolved into this 30 minutes together. And and here's the bottom line for that, is that the two of you inspire me and make me feel safe to open up and talk about the topics that we've had in front of us today. Not everybody does that, but you guys have that magic way of just making people feel comfortable. And it's like, show up, let's have a conversation about this. I'm like, okay, let's do that. So I really appreciate that, the two of you, and you have that, that natural ability, because it feels safe to be here with you, opening up and being vulnerable and just having a conversation. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you, Tony. You turned a takeaway into a compliment, but okay, we'll roll with that.
It is a compliment.
I gotta say, my takeaway is I'm still confused beyond all get out how the hell you're in the construction industry. That's just I don't understand that. And we're eternally grateful that you are. And what you bring. And if you don't know this guy, you need to. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that.
Yeah, all this is really about a mindset that's focused on other people. So, you know, I would say I'm going to use this, Tony. I borrow and steal from you after every conversation, and I'm going to do it again. So, how do you want to be tomorrow? Just keep asking yourself that. When in the middle of that bad conversation, how do you want to be in 10 minutes? How do you want to be tomorrow? And really be paying attention to the impact you're having on the people around you.
Yeah.
I think we need more leaders like you. When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
I don't even know.
Wow.
Halloween yet.
Oh, man, Tony, thank you so much for taking this time with us. Thank you for being who you are, spending a little bit of time sharing your wisdom. I learned something from you every single time we talk. So thanks for being here. For our listeners, thank you for joining us again on another episode. Find us online at Ripple.org. Come attend one of our events. We are in a city near you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye. Are we done? We're done recording now, huh?